welcome back. My name is CF Claire, and I'm on a journey to become a self-published Kindle Unlimited romance author. And I am at a stage I have not quite been at yet, which is where I have an entire first draft that I actually really like, and I don't want to scrap entirely. And then now I need to fix quite a lot of underlying issues within it. So I'm not gonna lie, when I I finished writing the draft 3 weeks ago, and I reread it entirely. I sent it to my Kindle and reread it entirely a couple days ago. And I'm not gonna lie, I did love it. I loved it. And there's so much of it that was exactly what I wanted it to be, just in like, a terrible form for a first draft. But it was also quite overwhelming because there's a lot to fix that is not just on the page, it's the underlying things. And the draft came to 96,000 words. And so that's just like a lot of draft to approach. So, what I ended up doing is I looked up a lot of videos where people talked about their developmental editing process. And two in particular really were super helpful. So, I'll link them below. But one was by Ellen Brock, who's a developmental editor. And she recommended when working on your own developmental edits that a good place to start can be to make a list of all the things you love about the project, the things you hate about the project, the things you're indifferent towards, and the things that just got lost along the way that were meant to be in there. And I cannot tell you how helpful that was. I literally went from like, oh my God, what do I do? to realizing there's a ton I love about the project, which is great. And then there's things I can do to even bring that stuff forward more. And there are things that I hate about the project that I don't need to fix. I can literally just take them out. I don't need to brainstorm, how do I make this work? I can just cut it. I can put something else. So that was actually pretty freeing. And then there was a ton of stuff that had just got lost along the way that I realized I needed to clarify, or that kind of made some inconsistencies with character actions and internality and needed to be straightened out because that was what I wanted, and it just like it's not there. So that was super helpful. And then I also looked at uh, I'll have her link down below, another developmental editor who recommended some categories to address about a draft when writing a developmental edit letter to yourself or whoever. So the first category is metadata, who the book is intended to be for, what those readers expect, what the reading experience is supposed to be like, as well as how the beginning felt, like if the hook was there, if it felt like it started too early, too late, how the character development was, whether characters had a full arc, whether there were internal stakes, external stakes, whether the secondary characters added to the story or detracted from the story, the plot, whether it made sense and was logical or convoluted, or how subplots were there too many, did they add, did they detract, scene development, which I skipped because I don't think there's a point to work on the scenes yet in my case. How the pacing was, if it was too fast places, too slow other places, and the world building, did the details of the world make logical sense? How were the settings, the description, the rules, and the ending? Did it deliver on the promise that the beginning set up? That sort of thing. And I also included a section on just like overall how I felt about each of the sequences of the book, because I work in the 8 sequence outlining method. So that's just like a very easy way to break things down. So that all was very helpful. And I feel like from those two techniques, I was able to create a second draft developmental editing plan that feels really good and manageable. So what I did was I listed all the biggest problems that I had with the story, and then I organized them in order from like largest problem that's going to affect literally everything on down to the smallest. And there were 9 problems I wanted to work on before even touching the manuscript, because that's while working on those 9 problems, There's going to be a lot of clarity that comes through in scenes I want to add, scenes I want to take out, character arcs that need to change, things like that. And so I feel like by the end of doing this developmental edit, I'll have a list of just like a much clearer picture of what I want from the story and what I have. And then from there, I can kind of merge the two together in a way that feels good. Since there were 9 pretty big things that I want to tackle, I wanted to work through the draft in passes so that it feels more manageable. So each pass is going to have 3 focuses. If this works, I like theoretically this works really well, right? But when you actually get into things, sometimes things bleed over into other sections. So this may not work. But the idea is that the first pass would be focused on the market and genre expectations, the theme line components, and the character components, because those 3 things are going to really affect everything else. So I made my plan of execution where I have each of the focuses for each pass and then a general summary of like a successful pass looks like this stuff. And here's what the execution plan. Number 1, do this, then 2. So, at the end of this pass, I should feel confident that the book will align with the market, have a theme I resonate with, and will have a good grasp on the main character's design. So hopefully it goes according to plan. That sounds like a good thing. The main problem that I had with the first draft, which is again fine because it's a first draft, but it was that the first quarter of the book read like a rom-com, which was fantastic. That is what I wanted. So the reading experience was like super fun. And then it got much more into like adventure, not really rom-com vibes, which is fine for a first draft. But I do want it to the whole way through feel fun and rom-com. So actually, what did I write in my developmental edit letter? I wrote, the reading experience of the book is meant to be one that is fun, engaging, and moving. It should keep readers on the edge of their seat, wanting to finish, should consistently surprise and delight readers the further in they get, and feel like a fun fairy tale that they walk away from with a giddy, content feeling that makes them want to kick their legs and squeal in satisfaction. It should feel like they are going on an adventure and falling in love and becoming the best version of themselves they can be, and laughing and crying as they go through it. So that's kind of what I want. So let's stop talking and start working. The first the first thing on my execution plan was to do some general brainstorming on market and genre expectations. So let's go ahead and do that. It's April 3rd, and yesterday I actually got a call from the school shortly after filming, and my daughter had a fever. She is okay. She is okay. It's just like the this is the theme of life with the kids in the school. So the kids are 5 and 7, and it's just like they can be fine in the morning and then suddenly fever for 3 days, and it's just like okay, here we go. So my son had actually been home last week for like 3 days with a fever. And it seemed like no one else in the family was going to get anything, but here we are. So she's downstairs playing Pokemon. I picked her up yesterday. She didn't go to school today. So it's just kind of a rainy day. Today, I've actually been, I don't know if you can tell from this vlog how different style it is and like hopefully better, but I got an actual laptop that has actual video editing capabilities. So I've just been playing around with that and having a fun time. But I have some chicken soup going and some biscuits. So we're going to do a little bit of lunch here. And I need to do some general brainstorming on the second focus for this pass of the edits, which is just sort of more varied brainstorming on the theme and how I want the characters to express that theme. Not to get too in the weeds with it, but there are ways to express theme through the structure of the story rather than the, dialogue, outward dialogue. So just kind of like brainstorming some things about that. It's not that I hadn't done any, but I didn't go like super in depth before, and I think there's just like better ways to tighten it up. It is 1 o'clock on April 6th, and I spent the first four time blocks of today working on the first chapter of drafting book three, which is kind of a funny thing to do, but I'm really enjoying having the freedom to do it. And I say I worked for four time blocks. I literally just like wrote, planning to write until the chapter was over, and it took like 2 hours. So it was really nice though. I wasn't trying to be super fast, and I was really just like enjoying the process. And so I have two more time blocks that I want to be working today. And I think what I want to do is I've been playing around in Scrivener, and I've been really, really liking just coming up with names for chapters. And so I kind of want to do that for books 4 and 5 and just sort of see like how much do I sort of have off the top of my head, not really even outlining, it's just setting up the documents and being like, here was the thought for what we might call these chapters and how that might get laid out. So I kind of want to do that. That seems pretty low stakes. I'm having some resistance about working on the developmental edit. And I'm going to kind of go with that for a little while and keep avoiding it because I do think that it will come around. So we're going to if I keep feeling this resistance for 2 more days, then on the third day I will sit down and try to figure out what's going on about that resistance. But for right now, we're going to be fine with it and just go with the flow. I'm having such a good time with this drafting for book three. I don't want to give like a ton of information about it, obviously, but I also don't want to just like completely say nothing. Founded on that rejected mate trope. And so both the main characters in this story are shifters, various kinds of shifters. And there are things going on, reasons why one of them didn't realize that the other person was their mate. And so it's just kind of, it was an accidental rejection. And I'm having such a good time writing that. It's April 9th now. So how's it all going? I I don't like my plan. So here's what's going on. It's a good thing, I think, that I'm working on more than one project at once because I'm doing the first draft of book three in this series right now, right? I'm finding it easier to do that and more fun to do that than it is to think about all these components about character arc and how to fix some things I feel like I need to straighten out for book one, Project Goblin. And I think what I really need to do is lean away from the component stuff and lean more towards the vibe, which is a very funny thing to say, but I feel like it comes back to everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, right? And sometimes the thing that is a strength for you is also taken too far to be weakness. And I very much feel that that is what it is for me sometimes. So I think this is one of those times where I just need to like step back from, I feel like, a strength of mine, which is outlining and thinking about the, beneath the page structure of things, because it's not fun right now. I don't want to do it. I'm putting it off. And what I want to do, I think, is actually going to be more helpful because I don't even know if I told you guys this. Let me grab my computer. It's not that I think that it was a bad plan I came up with or that I like won't use it at some point. I just think I need to not do it right this moment, and that honestly some of the things may straighten themselves out just by approaching it in a different way. So, the vibe, right? That I think is what I need to focus on because okay, I came up with a new sort of pitch for this series. It's like Firefly vibes meets Presley Cole's Immortals After Dark, supernatural beings and things like that, minus the humans, and but make it a rom-com romantasy. I feel like that's what it is, and I like that, and I think I need to just like lean on that. So when I was building this series and this book in particular, I knew that I wanted it to be rom-com feel reading it and to rely heavily on fated mates, the fated mates trope and enemies to lovers. And I really, really liked what I came up with for the first draft. And it read very rom-commy and enemies to lovers, but it kind of skewed more towards the, all right, I can see why they're enemies. This is pretty wild right off the bat. And I think that that's too much. I think that that's not setting up the right amount of vibe. What I want it to read as more is here's rom-com and then it builds to and here's why it's enemies to lovers and then here we go. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but it means that I want to change some of the actions and situations that are playing out in the first sequence of the book, the first half of the first quarter. And I came up with a different idea for what I want to do that's much more rom-commy and can build to that enemies to lovers peak. And I think that just like makes sense. And so now that I had the idea for that, I'm like let's write that, right? Let's just draft that and then see how sequence 2 reads with that new beginning. So that's kind of where I'm landing right now. And it feels feels like a weird spot to be in to be like, I feel like I should do all of this underlying structure stuff, but let me like and actually just draft a new version of the story. Like, is that gonna fix anything? But I feel like it might. So and this is because as I'm drafting book 3, I've drafted the first 4 chapters of that so far. And it just reads so well and it reads so fun, and I think that that is like the missing element. It's so super rom-commy, but you can also see why there's going to be like enemies to lovers kind of situation, kind of playing out. And I just want to see what that's like in Project Goblin too. Okay, so today I think what I want to do is I want to kind of take what's been working for drafting book 3 and try to set up those parameters for Project Goblin and then see if I can draft a chapter or 2, depending on how it goes today, and just kind of go from there. There's 9 chapters that I'd be looking at for this first sequence of redrafting things, and there's quite a bit that I can pull over. It's not a full rewrite, but there's a lot that would change on the page because of what I want to do. So we'll see. Welcome to the new setup. It's better. It's April 13th, and I am I so don't feel I want to write. So let's talk about that. So it's 11 o'clock today. I had to go. So, okay, get this. This is so frustrating. I had to get my car inspected, and I also wanted to change my oil at the same time. So when I went to the car place, I told them that's what I wanted to do. And and I thought that that had all happened, and the guy who was there went over a couple different options and had like some filters that needed to be changed for my car, and he was like, and the rest of it looks good. And so I took that to mean that he did the inspection I asked for and everything was great except for these filters. um but it was not listed as one of the charges on my receipt, and I was like, oh, did he just like forget? And somehow this was all connected to changing the oil, even though this is like, I don't know what's going on. So I checked my car. Yeah, he didn't inspect my car. So that's okay. That would clearly he must not have heard me or whatever. But anyway, so I was dealing with that. That took an hour to like figure out to get the oil changed. Just apparently only that. And while I was there, I was trying to work on chapter 3, which is the chapter that I'm currently drafting of Project Goblin. The second draft of it, it's going to be a rewrite of a scene. I changed some of the dynamics at the beginning, which we'll get into in a minute. But so, anyways, I was trying to draft that while waiting in the waiting room. And it just like, that didn't work well. That was not good. So I have a certain amount of words that I don't know if I even want to keep any of. And now it's 11 o'clock, and I really want to write this chapter today. And I even have a bunch of notes about what I want to go on in the chapter. And I don't know, there's just like something's not working. So initially, one of the very first actions that the love interest did in the book uh, was not great. And it led to her despising him immediately because of that. And I really wanted to play with the idea of like, she actually liked him at first, and then he afterwards did some crazy stuff for her to be like, oh, forget this. This is like insane. And I know how I want to do that. But the actual execution of like rewriting this whole situation, I don't know, my brain's just like swirly whirly. So that's what I'm trying to work on today. I already used 3 of my 6 time blocks, and I don't feel like I'm really anywhere closer, which is just like frustrating. I don't know. I'm just in a frustrated mood, so I'm trying to move past it. I have my scene cards. I think I'm gonna use those to just kind of. I think what's going on is that I want the chapter to be from her perspective, but he's the one who like is driving the scene. And what I was writing in the car waiting room was not him driving the scene. It was just like 2 people spinning their wheels in a situation, which like doesn't do anything, right? So we're going to, yeah, look at the scene cards, look at what we want to do. I think the main problem is just like I have swirly whirly notes, and I think I know what I want the like end product of the scene to be, but all the getting there is not going well. So I think I need to use like sticky notes to be like this, then this, then this, and this. I don't know. Sometimes it works fine to just write notes on my computer and then just use that. And other times it just like, no, that's not going to work. So that's where we're at. If I didn't say this in another clip, I rewrote chapters 1 and 2 already, and I love how they came out. I feel like I changed the situation, and so it's not the same things happening in this version of the book. And I really think that the characterization and setting up of the characters, like introductions, I think that is just like phenomenally better than what I had in the first draft, even though like I like the way the first draft came out, the way it read, it was fine. But this is just like worlds better. So that's feeling really good. We're gonna kind of try to lean into that and get through. All right. Let's begin. Yeah, that didn't help whatsoever. I don't know. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. So let's see. It's not that I didn't do anything. It's just that I don't like how it's coming together. How many words did I do? I actually wrote 781 words. They're just all like really blah. So, but that's better than I thought. This scene is like not held together. So, ugh. I'm having such a hard time concentrating on it. And I don't know, maybe I just got spoiled because both the other chapters, chapter 1 and chapter 2, were super engaging and fun basically the whole way through. And I spent like a kind of a long time on them. 6 time blocks on chapter 1 and like close to 9 on chapter 2. So I just kind of thought, oh, maybe this is just going to be a fun draft, writing draft 2, and maybe that's just like too hasty. I have been finding that I just like need to sketch out things and then go back and just like, ugh, I don't know. Anyways, I'm clearly feeling very eloquent today. I don't know. I'm struggling. This is a harder chapter to do. I'm really like, the problem is I want the love interest to be trying to find out certain things in this very fun setting situation. And I want her to not like to think that there's a different context going on for it. And I'm just struggling with what's the back and forth, because so this is the meet cute. This is the first time they're on the page together. And when I did the meet cute in draft 1, it had been somewhat easier because it was extremely confrontational, because he had done something that like people shouldn't do, and then she was reacting in a way that's like people shouldn't do this. And he was like, here's my justification, blah blah blah. And so that was just like, it's very naturally conflict present, so that felt easier. With this, I think it is the better in terms of what I actually am trying to do with all of this stuff. It's just that it's not I'm like fighting. I'm fighting for how do they interact at this point. And I don't want to be fighting about that. So I'm gonna take a little bit of a break. It's 12:25. I do want to spend another 2 time blocks at least working on it today, even though I was hoping it would be perfect and good and done. Maybe it won't be today, but I'm gonna take a little break. I really like having like little writing quotes around, and I keep meaning to make like a Canva graphic thing with a bunch of different quotations. I would just print them out and be like, here's my writing quote for the day, and just look at it when I'm writing. And I think maybe I just like do that and actually print some of them out, because maybe that will be helpful. Maybe it will. I've officially stopped drafting for Project Goblin. I'm back to my plan. It feels like that's the right call. And so we'll talk about that more in the next vlog. But I hope that your writing's going well and you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.